Welcome back to part 2 now. In part 2, we're obviously going to go into the details. We'll start speaking about the details and we'll start discussing in detail about our company, Hottayr. Up until now, only background information, background stuff is what we have been dealing with. And we'll continue to do that in the next pages till we finally start speaking about our company, which is Hottayr. Please make sure that you are okay with the industry analysis. Please make sure you simply go through the industry analysis first, again, if you haven't already, and if you're not comfortable with that. So first, industry analysis you should be okay with. Second, you should start to look at your pre-scene part 1 very carefully, and then you come to your pre-scene part 2. In part 1, we have spoken in detail about your role, which is that of a senior finance manager. Your company is based in Norland. Then they started to give you details about gas boilers, which are now starting to be phased out by many governments. So it's not a very promising field. Our company Hottayr makes gas boilers, so let's keep that in mind. After that, they started speaking about heat pumps. They told you the entire scientific mechanism of how a heat pump works, which tells us that it's very technical process. You will need highly qualified and technical employees to make sure that the process is running smoothly. So while speaking about heat pumps, they told us that there are air source heat pumps and ground source heat pumps, and we raised a lot of questions. We made a lot of relations to your E3, P3 and F3 syllabus in part 1, and we have finally arrived at part 2, where we start speaking about the different aspects moving on. Before we begin, let's complete this discussion. So ground source heat pumps are going to be more effective if there is to be a very cold winter. The risk of any pollution in terms of noise is also lower for a ground source heat pump. So when we are comparing air source and ground source is more labor intensive. It may cost you more to get to dig the place and then put in your pipes underground. That is something which will cost you more, but the benefits are that if it's going to be overly cold, a ground source heat pumps works better, and also there's less noise pollution. Overall, heat pumps are more energy efficient than conventional boilers. That's what I want to tell you. Boilers are using renewable resources. Boilers are using resources which are limited, which is your LPG, CNG, and hence heat pumps are something that is more preferred in this industry in terms of sustainability. Now, when speaking about boilers or heat pumps, we will always need to keep in mind that there will certainly be rules and regulations which are set by the government around this, because without rules regulations for a commercial industry where customers are directly involved, it would be a very haphazard way of working, and it would not be something which is seen in a developed country. Developed countries have rules, have regulations. So same with Norland. And because you are speaking about rules, regulations, we speak about the government. And hence the government becomes a very important stakeholder. The government becomes a very important participant in this industry. And when we talk about stakeholders, stakeholder management, stakeholder dealing, your E3 syllabus, Mendelow's matrix comes into the picture. And also risks come into the picture, because there are rules and regulation risks. If you don't meet them, if you don't adhere to them, catastrophic damage is what your company can face in terms of reputation as well. So reputation risk as well as rules regulation risk come into the picture over here. That finishes our discussions for the heat pumps. Coming to alternative heating sources now. Now, boilers and heat pumps are not the only way heat is generated, right? In this modern world, there are lots of other methods as well. So there are alternatives to boilers and heat pumps when powering central heating systems. The first is a solar thermal panel. Now, a solar panel is what you might be hearing all around the world in terms of an opportunity which everybody wants to put their hands to, which everybody wants to, it's a market where everybody wants to enter because of the huge potential in temperate climate countries where there is sunlight which you can harness. Solar thermal panels can be used to capture heat from sunlight to heat the water. The panel contains pipes filled with water. The glass helps focus the sunlight on the pipes. The pipe heats up, the water heats up, and that's how you get hot water. Solar panels are simpler than heat pumps, yes, for sure, but they rely on sunlight to heat water. If there's no sunlight, you can't heat water. So photovoltaic solar panels use a different technology to convert sunlight into electricity, but solar panels are solar panels. Let's think of them as simple solar panels as of now. We are starting to see the far-reaching market that the domestic heating industry has access to. There's so many options. You go with gas boilers, you go with air source heat pumps, you go with ground source, you go with solar panels, you go with your traditional heaters. There's so many options. It is a big market and a big industry which we have learnt in our industry analysis as well. So focusing on the right areas, offering the customer the right choice will be very important, and for this data can come in to be very handy. We'll be speaking about data and its opportunities as we go deeper into the pre-scene, but because I have mentioned it, your E3 syllabus on data analysis, big data comes into the picture here, so just keep it in your mind. Moving on, both types of solar panels require homeowners to have a suitable location for an array of panels. You have to lay down the panels somewhere where there is good access to sunlight. They are usually mounted on a rooftop, and in the northern hemisphere it would be ideal if that rooftop was facing south in order to maximize exposure to sunlight throughout the day. It should be in a place where sunlight can reach it. Now, solar energy can generate heat which could be used with a heat pump. Why is there not possible for there to be a combination of a solar thermal panel which provides the heat in terms or in combination with a heat pump? So there is a straight possibility here for Hottayr to acquire a solar panel manufacturer as a mode of expansion. Right now, heat pumps are using water to generate heat, right? They're using your hydrofluorocarbons that we spoke about, that is continuously running through the pipes, and that is how the heat is being generated. Can a heat pump system not work with solar energy? Is that possible? So the heat pump is still used, but instead of the hydrofluorocarbons, you use solar energy to heat the water and then pump it around the house. The technology is pretty much the same, just the mode of generation of the heat and the actual use of the refrigerator that we spoke about. The product which is called refrigerator that heats up, rather than using the hydrofluorocarbons, you use solar energy to generate the heat. That can be done, and because it's a thought process that I'm getting, there is also a straightforward possibility that tomorrow Hottayr thinks about acquiring a solar panel manufacturer. This makes your synergies topic, acquisition topic, business valuation topic important from the F3 syllabus. So I'm just thinking about ways I can bring in your syllabus areas so that you can focus on these important aspects and make sure that if a scenario of this kind comes up, you're not blank because you've prepared for it. Now, we already know that this is a huge market worldwide, and it is also a big market in Noland now. This is also an indication that other markets around the world have lucrative opportunities for expansion, something we have learned from the industry analysis. So in areas and segments where there is huge opportunity to harness sunlight, maybe our company can access those markets to, after acquiring a solar panel manufacturer and after developing that technology to work with our heat pumps, maybe our company can look to expand into those markets where there is a huge opportunity to harness the sunlight, where there is a huge opportunity to take advantage of that sunlight. So it opens up expansion opportunities as well if we think about this acquisition, if we think about this scenario that I just gave you. But just to get your mind moving in that direction, it's important for me to mention it. Now to district heat. So the first alternative source was solar panels, then there was district heat. Now district heat is a communal heating system that is usually provided by the city's government that have access to biomass fuel that can be burnt to create heat. Biomass takes a variety of forms, including waste food, waste forestry wood, waste agricultural residue such as wheat stalks, and even household waste. Some governments, some cities will have a biomass burning system, and they'll burn it to generate fuel which can then be used to create heat. And then they supply that heat in that particular city, which is very, very popular in Europe. A large biomass boiler heats the water that is pumped to individual homes in the surrounding buildings. So wherever you have collected that biomass waste and then you've converted it to fuel, around that there can be a system of pipes where a large boiler heats the water that is pumped to individual homes in the surrounding buildings. This is very popular in Europe, and you will see this around Europe, but again, it involves burning, combustion, so they cause carbon emissions because you're burning waste, you're burning wood. So any which ways emissions are present. So it's an alternative source which is quite popular, but it generates emissions. It's not sustainable. They are, however, generally more efficient than having separate heat sources in individual dwellings. Yes, it does generate your carbon emissions, but rather than having a heater or a boiler in each house, this is better. This technology tends to be popular in locations that can offer cheap fuel from nearby sources, like I mentioned. For example, a city with a large commercial forestry on its outskirts will have a ready supply of combustible material that would be otherwise wasted, that would be otherwise dumped, complete waste. In that case, a city can make use of this biomass technology and provide heat to nearby houses. Second option we spoke about in alternative sourcing is district heat. Third option we are speaking about is electric heaters. Now this is quite common. I've put an image as well for you. Electric heaters can be freestanding or wall mounted. In either case, they are connected to the household's electric supply, so they use electricity. The flow of electricity through wiring that has a high resistance creates the heat. Electric heaters were popular before central heating systems became popular. Now you have central heating systems, so you don't pretty much need the electric heater. But in places where there is, where electricity is not very easily accessible, where there isn't a continuous supply of electricity, then electric heaters are also used as substitutes because they're easier to move, easier to set up, easier to put in place. And they're easy to install in any room. They're also flexible because they can be switched on, switched off, and control your usage. These heaters offer convenience but are relatively expensive to operate in terms of the electricity that they use. Overall, we know that this market is going to be competitive because of the nature and the availability of the products. So many substitutes are available. The barriers to entry in this market are going to be high. That's a good thing because I can't wake up tomorrow morning and start making heating equipment, right? For that, I'll need a factory, I'll need employees, I'll need money, I'll need raw material. So the barriers to entry are going to be quite high in this industry because of the technical nature and the manufacturing setup that is needed. So that's one good thing, that you as Hottayr will be established in this market already, but the barriers are going to be high. Still, competition is going to be the nature of this industry because of the different kind of sources that are available. price, market innovations, product catalogs, and customer service will be the key differentiators here. What you offer, where you offer it, what is the price, what is your innovation. We've spoken about this in the industry analysis as well for you. Now, this brings in discussion of finance that will be needed by the company for operating and expansion. Now, whenever you want to run your business or whenever you want to expand your business, you need money. So, for money, we have to speak about finance. This brings the need to study the competitors and have a deep comparator analysis knowledge, but also have knowledge of your financial securities. So, F3 and E3 both come into the picture here, which we must revise. Now the next part they're giving us is called global sales of domestic heating technologies. So up until now they told us about the different heating technologies, and they told us about your boilers, they told us about heat pumps, they told us about your electric heaters, they told us about district heat, they told us about solar panels, and now they're telling us that they're giving us some global sales insights. Remember, this is only the industry analysis that we are doing, industry background that we are doing as part of the pre-scene. We have not yet started to speak about our company Hottayr. Now globally, boilers are slowly declining in popularity because of environmental concerns and carbon emissions. Consumers are, however, often reluctant to switch to heat pumps because the cost of doing so. We spoke about this, it's at least 4 or 5 times the cost than a boiler. So boilers are slowly declining in popularity, and our company Hottayr is part of the boilers market. So something that we have to think about, because you are selling a product that is declining in popularity. So you will have to look at other revenue sources. Heat pumps cost more than boilers, and they usually require a significant investment in new radiators or underfloor heating. So they cost more, we know that, and they usually require a new investment as well. Consumers often replace old boilers with newer models that are more efficient, more reliable than the existing models, because you just have to remove the boiler, put a new boiler which is a better model, a better version, and it's cheaper for them. If you're going to a completely different system, which may be that of a heat pump, which is air source, ground source, whatever, it's a big investment that the customer has to go through, because sometimes you'll need more radiators, you'll need larger radiators, or you'll need underfloor heating. It's a huge construction cost. So it is evident that the major barrier for majority customers here is going to be cost. When expanding, we will need to look at the positioning and the spending ability of customers in the target country. So when you're targeting a country, you'll have to look at the disposable income, the GDP, the overall economic environment of the country, to make sure that majority of the population needs this and can afford it. But Hottayr is in the boilers market, and the evidence of the market declining is a worrying sign for us. We may need to look at divestment. Sell your boilers factory, boilers plant, boilers investment rather. Sell it and look at other opportunities, or maybe change it and maybe change the course of your company to offer new products or offer the same product to a new market to remain in the positive growth trajectory. Because when something is declining, you have to make a decision. What do you want to do with it? Cut costs? You want to divest? You want to look at other opportunities? You'll have to make a decision, right? That is what I'm making evident to you by these discussions. That there is an opportunity for us to expand, because the market that we are prevalent in is declining, which is your boilers. And this provides an opportunity for new further investments as well. Continuing around the same trend now, demand for boilers is expected to decline more rapidly within the next few years, because many governments have committed themselves to achieving a target of zero net carbon emissions, and many developed countries have done this to achieve zero net carbon emissions by 2030, 2040, 2050. Different governments have committed different plans, but they have committed it. So slowly they are moving away from these harmful, I'll say, heating sources, because they generate a lot of combustion in cold countries. Governments will make increasing use of a combination of incentives to install heat pumps and legislation to discourage the manufacture of and sale of boilers. So this is creating a clear political risk, because let's say today I sell 100,000 boilers every year. Tomorrow the government says stop selling boilers from 6 months. So my this year's production, my this year's inventory, my this year's raw material, my this year's sales, my this year's profit, everything will take a hit. So when you are so well connected to the government in terms of rules and regulations, it arises a political risk, or brings about a political risks, which is to be taken into account, as there are different attitudes of different governments regarding boilers and carbon emissions. When we go to speak about Hottayr, we'll see, do we only operate in Norland? Do we operate in other countries? Do we sell in other countries? Because each government will have different regulations. Each government will have different aspects that they will want to consider in terms of their carbon emissions. So there can be different political risks, but there will surely be a political risk related to this aspect, because government is providing incentives for more heat pumps. It's good because one of your products is heat pumps, so sales may increase over there, but your major product is also gas boilers. That will take a hit. So this brings in your risk topic of P3. I have been repeatedly mentioning, keep making a list of risks that you feel that our company may face. It will come in handy as we move deeper into the pre-scene. Do it as an exercise rather. Now it is anticipated that this will leave a small residual demand for boilers for consumers whose properties are unsuitable for heat pumps. Your property may be unsuitable for heat pumps because there is no place to put a radiator, for example, or it's not very, let's say you live in the basement. So next to the window where you have to put a radiator, it may be difficult. I'm just saying for example purposes, because radiators need to be put near windows. So just as an example, if your property is not suitable for a heat pump, then you may need to use boilers out of no other choice or option, and this will leave a small demand. For a big company like ours, that is Hottayr, do you think we want to be in a market that has a small residual demand? We are a company that's growing, and we are a huge financial company. We learn about that as we move deeper into the pre-scene. But just at the onset, let's know that this is a certain aspect of the market which is declining. So you can note the repeated mention of government, you can note the repeated mention of regulators, regulations. This will mean that the government is in fact a powerful stakeholder in the Mendelow's matrix category, and this is part of your E3 syllabus. Electric heaters and solar thermal panels will continue to be used alongside other heating technologies. Okay, these are additional heating technologies or different heating technologies. Mains electricity can be generated from renewable energy sources, which means that electric heaters do not cause emissions in operations. Now, electricity as well you can generate through solar panels. Electricity can also be generated through your wind farms, windmills. So electricity can sometimes be renewable, and if your heater is using this input of renewable electricity, then the heater is not causing any emissions in its operation. So possible situation in the exam here, what I'm thinking about is, you could be dealing with the government representative, and ethics can be brought into the discussion while dealing with a government regulator or a government representative. What ethics need to be kept in mind? So your CIMA code of ethics comes into the picture here, which is part of your E3 syllabus. So in this, up until now, we've learned that boilers, because of their impact on the environment, are losing out on market share, and governments are discouraging this. Government is a major stakeholder. Electric heaters and solar thermal panels are still considered sustainable in some source if the electricity for the electric heater is generated through renewable sources. So at every stage, we'll keep giving you ideas this way. Now they've given us the global sales of domestic heating technologies for the years 2015 to 2030. So a prediction of the future and some details about the past. In 2015, you will see the gas and oil boilers were the most prominent product that was sold. And obviously, our company is selling this product and has been in the market since a long time. We'll learn about when the company was established as we move deeper. But let me tell you, from now itself, our company has been in the market for a very long time. So in 2015, gas and oil boilers were a large part of the market share, and our company has reaped the benefits of the same because we are well known in this particular segment. Okay. And heat pumps was very small, or rather the smallest market share. And that is something which is now showing a very good positive growth because of government support and government initiatives as well. Next, when I look at 2020, gas boilers has reduced, heat pumps has increased, everything else has pretty much remained the same. So the market share from gas boilers reduced, and that market share went to heat pumps because all the others are pretty much the same size if you look at it. In 2025, gas boilers became a very small percentage. Solar thermal panels increased, district heat has remained the same. Electric heaters increased, but heat pumps saw a huge jump. And in 2030, gas and oil boilers are going to be the smallest market share, a very residual market share, a very residual interest in this particular segment, with heat pumps being largely the most popular and the second popular being solar thermal panels. Altogether, this shows me that the heat pump market, solar thermal panels market are the ones which are growing, are the ones which are where there is maximum growth, and you need to position yourself in one of those segments to make sure that you don't lose out on growth opportunities. You don't lose out on growth chances. It's very important, right? So we can see that the increase in the heat pumps market share over the forecast period. There is also a considerable positive increase in solar panels market share. On the other hand, our traditional market of boilers is shrinking. Again, is there an opportunity to invest/grow into the solar panels market? Because the boiler is becoming, more and more just a very small segment. And for a big company to survive, that segment might not be enough. And a possible situation that I'm thinking about that can come up in the exam is that, again, we are planning for a solar panels company acquisition, and that company is trying to protect itself or does not want to get acquired, and hence using pre-bid defenses, post-bid defenses. This is part of your F3 syllabus. So I just thought of this as an exam scenario which could come up, and that is why I wanted to share it with you. The promotion of renewable energy sources is expected to boost the unit sales of heat pumps more than other sustainable heat sources. So because renewable sources are being so very well promoted, heat pumps are going to expect a good growth. Solar thermal panels are not suitable for every location and are not always capable of meeting a household's entire need of heating, and for hot water as well. Might not be possible because that much sunlight is needed, right? District heat requires a major investment in infrastructure, and so without government support, district heat is not possible. Now it is very important to note that all of this analysis given up until now is for residential properties only. This is the market segment that we are operating in. They've not given us any commercial or any industrial use of the market or the industrial use of heating, none of that has been given. All of this is for residential properties only. So keep these ideas that I have given in mind. Now to Nolan's residential central heating market. Up until now, global analysis was being given. Now there is a analysis for Norland specifically. Norland has a temperate climate with a significant variation in temperature from season to season throughout the year, which means in the summers it will be hot, in the winters it will be cold. So you will need a system that cools the house in the summer, that heats the house in the winter. So the reverse flow technology, which was spoken about as an added advantage for the heat pumps, an added technology advantage for the heat pumps, brings in very important, becomes very important in this situation. So very clear that the reverse flow technology mentioned above is relevant for Norland because it has a temperate climate, which means there will be a variation in the temperature. The temperature will change drastically and you will need both heating and cooling systems. If you look at Nolan's average daily temperature, they've given it for all the months. The highest temperature that reaches is close to in July, where it reaches just above 20 degrees Celsius, and the coldest is in December, January, where it's always below 5 degrees. So the temperature is rarely crossing 15-20 degrees. How much sunlight do you think will we have to capture over here? Will solar panels really work in Norland? For that we'll have to have a sunlight analysis, which has not been given here. Even if it's cold and if there is sunlight, the solar panels work. But how much sunlight is going to be available in Norland is a question that could come to mind. And this climate is pretty much very similar to every major European countries, let me put it that way, that you can think of. So how much sunlight will be present to access the full potential of solar panels is something that we think of. But the climate chart, if you look at, you can see it's temperate, you can see it's varying, you can see there will be need for both heating and cooling equipment, and also it is very similar climate to most European countries. Temperatures vary significantly during the day, with cooler temperatures during the hours of darkness and higher temperatures during the daylight hours. The winter nighttime temperatures are often below 0 degrees Celsius as well. So it is evidence that central heating again will be needed in Norland. In nights are cool and in the winter is going below 0 as well. So we have positioned ourselves well in this market as the demand conditions will be good, that we spoke about in page 1 itself, but just reiterating it for you over here. There is also significant seasonal variation around the average daily temperatures. Temperatures keep changing in different seasons. It is not unusual for cold periods in winter when the temperature remains below 0 degrees Celsius for a week or more. Again, evidence that heating is needed. Similarly, there can be hot spells during the summer when the temperature sometimes reaches 30 degrees Celsius as well. So the need for the reverse flow technology comes into the picture. Most householders heat their homes from mid-autumn until early spring. So the whole winter season is when the heat is needed. Heat pumps are promoted as offering a contribution towards meeting that target when the government is committed to reducing carbon emissions to 0, because the heat pump doesn't really have any carbon emissions except for the electricity that it needs. But if the electricity is coming from renewable sources, then the carbon emission pretty much is very, very close to 0. So Nolan's government is committed to reducing carbon emissions, and heat pump is one way they are going to do it. So their commitment is being given to heat pumps. So are there any subsidies that the government is giving? Are there any, just further discounts that the government is giving on the purchase of a heat pump or all the installation of a heat pump? Many countries do that, right? get a heat pump installed and you'll have $100 off. Just as an example, I'm saying. That can be possible. So is the Norland government looking to do something like that? It has been estimated that 20% of Norland's carbon emissions are attributed to domestic heating. So it's further evidence that we have to move away from the boilers market. The different divestment strategies can be needed to be considered here, can be needed to be thought of over here. This has been given in your F3 syllabus. Time to revise the same. Norlandian homeowners collectively spent an average of $1.6 billion each year on the purchase of central heating systems. So it's a very big market, as you can see. It's a very big opportunity, as you can see in Norland. It's pretty much a given that a heating system will be needed for a Norlandian home. That includes the installation of central heating in new homes and also the replacement of existing systems that are deemed unsafe, unreliable, or inefficient. So our company has taken the objectives of the government and aligned with them, because we are offering heat pumps which are the major source of commitment from the government's end as well. So we can further focus on expansion so that we enter the renewable zone, maybe look at solar panels as we discussed, maybe look at bettering and making our heat pumps more efficient, more cost efficient, so everybody can have access to them, everybody can use them. Next topic is replacement for existing systems. Now gas boilers can become unreliable over time. There's a chance of the gas leaking, leaving homes without heating when a component fails. Older designs are also less efficient than current models, meaning that they use more gas in order to maintain a comfortable temperature. More gas, more environmental footprints, more cost as well to the homeowner. At present, homeowners replace defective gas boilers with newer models, but keep their existing radiators. They keep using the same radiators, so there's no huge cost. If they switch directly to a heat pump, then they may need to change the radiators. They may need to have underfloor piping that's needed to be done for an air source heat pump. So that's the cost effect that is stopping this market from really expanding. Demand for heat pumps is growing slowly in this market because the pumps themselves are more expensive than gas boilers. That's what I told you, and that's what we spoke about. And there is likely to be a further cost due to the need for upgraded radiators or underfloor heating. New build homes. So under the Norlandian market, they first told us about the temperature of our country, which will require the reverse flow technology as well. Secondly, they told us about existing replacement, where people are, for an existing gas boiler, they're looking at a new gas boiler only. Third, they have new build homes are preferring heat pumps. Why? Because house builders often install heat pumps in new build houses because they are an attractive selling feature for potential buyers. This will be our focus and customer type that we market to, because house builders are often the ones that install the heat pump. The customer doesn't go to the store and see which heat pump to buy and which heat pump to choose. In Western markets, generally the householder makes the entire society, makes the entire houses which are ready. You just enter the house and everything is fit already. So house builders are looking at heat pumps when they're building new houses because it's becoming an attractive selling feature. So our focus, our customer segmentation will have to be towards house builders. The additional cost is not a significant factor when you are buying a completely new house. When you're buying a new house, a little bit extra is what you're ready to pay to make sure you have a comfortable environment, right? Radiators or underfloor heating pipes can be installed during the house's construction itself, and so it's not a huge hassle, a huge issue that it would be if you were changing from a gas boiler to a heat pump in a normal house which you are already living in. During the new phase of construction, air heat pumps are the ones which are being preferred, and householders will be your customer type that you must focus on. Now we are speaking about Hottayr. Finally, we start speaking about our company. Up until now, a whole world of background information was given, a whole idea on background information was given, a whole detail on background information was given. Now we start to specifically speak about what is my company, what does my company do, keeping in mind all the industry detail that we have done in the industry analysis, plus we have done in this detailed discussion up until now in the pre-scene. So firstly, Hottayr was established in 1952. I told you that the company has been in the market for a very, very long time. And if you see the 2015 global chart that they had given, gas boilers was the largest pie over there, was the largest part over there, which clearly means that during the years building up to 2015, gas boilers have been most popular, and we have been in the market since 1952 selling gas boilers because that's one of our product. So obviously we are going to be a company which is large enough, that has developed their competency in making and selling gas boilers, and we will have some goodwill in this Norland market. So Hottayr was established in 1952 and it became quoted on the stock exchange in 1967. So in 15 years itself, it became a big company, because when you are quoted on the stock exchange, you are a big company to be listed. Now we have been in the market for close to 70 years. Today is 2022. So this company has been in the market for such a long time. It's more like a tradition in that country rather than, a company, I would say. Because when you have been in the market for 70 years, have you seen any company in the whole wide world, in the whole wide universe? You pick any company. You feel that a company can survive for 70 years in the market if it's not good at what it does? It's not possible. The company will have garnered some goodwill. The company will have garnered some resistance ability, that it has been able to thrive and grow during this period. And hence, our company is one which will have goodwill, a good customer base, which will be in the market for a long time and will have reputation. So Hottayr was one of the first companies to specialize in boilers for domestic heating systems. We spoke about this. And it had the domestic heating system boilers had the largest market share. So Hottayr was probably reaping the benefits of this and hence became a very big company on the back of this. Very few homes had central heating systems when Hottayr was first established. And so the company was one of the first to enter the market for domestic gas boilers. It was a first mover in this market. Now from this, I can see that our company is one which is entering a market in its nascent stage, in its stage of growth, and then establishing itself. Because at the time there was no central heating systems or domestic heating systems, and still Hottayr decided, let's break this and make domestic gas boilers which can be used for central heating. So our company again has taken, up until now we have discussed that our company has been in line with the government objectives, but how? We'll learn deeper into the pre-scene as well. Up until now we know that we used to sell gas boilers, but then the popularity of heat pumps came up, so we started selling heat pumps as well. They'll give us more detail on this later on. So let's continue. Since we are a listed company now, questions can easily come up about raising capital, debt finance, equity finance, the balance of debt and equity, which is the weighted average cost of capital, the decision making on acquisition, and everything along those lines, which brings your F3 syllabus into the picture. Demand for central heating grew over time, although it was not common for central heating to be installed in new houses until 1970s. So Hottayr was trying to break this, and by 1970s central heating systems grew into a stage where they were input in new houses from the very beginning. By that time, Hottayr was one of the largest manufacturers of gas boilers in the country and had expanded into several export markets. So by that time itself, by 1970s itself, we had become one of the largest manufacturers of gas boilers. Tells us again about the size of our company. And we expanded into export markets as well. So not only Noland, we are dealing with export markets as well. And now Hottayr continues to manufacture domestic gas central heating boilers. Right now the industry is facing an issue for heating boilers, which we have spoken about extensively. Won't mention it again. But the important thing that I see over here is export markets. Now we can say that, first of all, being the first mover for any new technology can be considered important. And we as a company have done the same. We rather pioneered central heating through gas boilers in this industry and became the largest manufacturers. Can be seen as our comparative advantage. And you can use this as reference, as part of your answer, to show your company as recognizing change and taking quick action. This tells us about the culture of our company, right? The culture of our company is one where we notice a gap in the market, we notice a demand in the market, develop the product and become largest holders of that market share. Like we have become the largest manufacturers of gas boilers by 1970 itself. So this tells us about the nature of the company. Now since we are in a market for the long time, we are bound to have a reputation. So your reputation risk comes into the picture here. P3 syllabus, risk and risk management. I've spoken about a list of risks. I hope you are maintaining it. And now finally coming to exporting, the word of export that they have mentioned. Now since we are exporting, we will have income in different currencies. You will have expenses in different currencies. And dealing with different currencies will be a regular job. So your treasury department will be one that is looking at your currencies, looking at the handling of currencies, looking at the holding of currencies. And this brings the need to manage your currency risks. This also may bring in the need to raise finance in another currency, bringing in the topic of your interest rate risk as well. For example, if you have to make a sale in a certain country, you will need to pay for haulage, export, this, that, all of that. And maybe those costs are carried forward when your product enters another country up until it reaches the stage where it can be used by the household manufacturer. So you may incur expenses in a different currency. And if you incur expenses in a different currency, you may need to raise finance in a different currency as well. So currency hedging, interest rate risk comes into the picture over here. This is straight from your F3 syllabus, where you don't need to know any calculations, but just know how currency risk can be managed. What are the options that you have? Just know the options in your own words, which we have spoken about in our learnings document for F3 as well. So this brings in your financial aspect, which will be given importance because they've specifically mentioned export in the pre-scene. Hottayr has been heavily involved in product development. So our strategy has been product development. That's what they've mentioned, which means develop products that are efficient, develop products that are superior in quality, develop products that are meeting the needs of the customers. So this is something that we will keep in mind because that's the strategy for my company, which is product development. Safety has been one of our mottos. So Hottayr was the first domestic boiler manufacturer to receive a safety award from Noland Gas, which means obviously we've done something right, correct? There are very strict standards governing the safety of gas boilers. And Hottayr's policy has always been to exceed those standards. When you think of Hottayr, you have to think of safety. So receiving a safety award is our comparative advantage and our reputation enhancement. Once again, we already know this market is going to be heavily regulated because of the nature of the market. and because of the safety needed for customers. So safety is one of our core competencies, our differentiators, if you want to put it that way. Secondly, there is reliability. Hottayr was the first domestic boiler manufacturer to offer a 10-year guarantee for its boilers. The company's boilers rarely break down, provided they are properly maintained and serviced. All boilers have limited useful lives because of the deterioration caused by heat, moisture, and blockages caused by soot. But Hottayr's boilers last for an average of 15 years. Most competitors' boilers require replacement after average of 12 years. So you're already ahead of your competitors in terms of reliability. So your boilers are ones which are more reliable, and they are ones where you're giving them a 10-year guarantee. Remember, boilers is a market that is going down. Boilers is a market that your company can think about divesting in and looking at other opportunities. But this information over here tells us the nature and the culture. Any product that we come up with, it will be safe. It will be, efficient. It will be reliant. So efficiency next. Hottayr's boiler designs have constantly evolved to use less gas, making them cheaper and more environmental friendly. Hottayr patented several features that enable its boilers to create more heat from burning a given volume of gas and also waste less heat in bringing water up to a desired temperature. So let's speak over here of how we can better use technology in the modern world to develop our products and to help customers to use them in a better way. How can you use modern technology? How can you use modern manufacturing techniques? How can you use modern data management techniques to develop your products? I want everybody to think over here for a couple minutes just how modern technologies, and they could be any technology, manufacturing, data related, that can help customers use our products in a better way. This is your E3 syllabus because we're thinking about strategy over here. Yes, I will be doing a discussion with you on these topics. I will be doing a quiz with you on these topics. I will be doing mock questions with you on these topics. But right now it's your chance to think. Right now it's your chance to put your brain to use. Next, Hottayr's gas boiler factory is located on the outskirts of Noland's central city, and it employs 3,800 staff. You can see the importance that was given to the boiler factory. It's a separate factory altogether, and it has 3,800 staff. So it will be important to have proper quality controls, internal controls to be put in place in the manufacturing process itself, because if rules, regulations in any case are broken, there will be heavy fines, heavy reputation loss becomes part of your P3 syllabus in terms of risk, in terms of controls, in terms of internal controls as well. Many production processes are automated. A large proportion of the factory staff are engaged in quality control activities because our motto is safety, reliability, efficiency. So remember these three things, and whenever you are speaking or suggesting anything related to Hottayr's products, these three core competencies should remain intact. You can't suggest that let's make a product which will be cheap so that everybody can access it, and because and we'll compromise a little bit on the quality. That's not something you can suggest, because that's not what your company does. That's not the culture of your company. That's not the value of your company. The three main pillars of your company is safety, efficiency, and reliability. We'll keep this in mind. Hottayr commenced production of heat pumps for domestic heating systems in 1997. So just before the 2000 year, the heat pump production was started, which means that a gap was noticed in the market. Even if you look at the global analysis that was given above, those different pie charts, in 2015, heat pumps was such a small market share. So imagine in 2000, how much of the market share would it have? Very, very small. But still, Hottayr noticed that at that time, this is an opportunity. This is a product which may prove to be beneficial in the future. And Hottayr invested in it in 1997 itself. This was regarded as a risky venture at that time because demand was very, very limited. So it further shows the nature of our company, taking risks to develop products which the company feels will do well, which the company feels can be beneficial, which the company feels can be important in the future. So it shows the nature of the company, always committing to product development no matter the risk, after obviously careful analysis. So understanding over here which product is in what stage of the product life cycle, E3 syllabus, will be important to make divestment decisions or investment decisions. And you can consider the BCG matrix here. Which product is your star? Which product is your cash cow? Which product is one that is a dog? Which product is a question mark? You can think of that, and you can think of Hottayr's products, majorly two, boilers and air source heat pumps, and put them in specific categories to understand where you should invest. And it's a clear sign that heat pumps is a market that is growing, so invest there. Heat pumps is a market that is going to continue to grow, so invest there. Whereas the boilers is a market which is rather declining. So the BCG matrix can be used here, brings in your E3 syllabus. However, growing concerns about emissions and the need to protect the environment created interest. Some early adopter consumers have replaced their gas boilers with heat pumps, despite the significant cost of doing so. Hottayr's main market for heat pumps has been house builders, who often install heat pumps in new homes under construction. We spoke about this. They are our major customers. They are our major market that we may need to look at. So house builders are our main market. That's what they're clearly telling us. Consumers regard this as an attractive feature when buying a new house. All of Hottayr's heat pumps are air source. They're clearly telling you we are air source heat pump manufacturers only. There is insufficient demand for ground source heat pumps to justify the investment that would be required for their development and their manufacturer. So maybe look to expand in countries which are colder, because ground source are more effective than air source if the environment is very cold. So maybe if you want to start offering ground source heat pumps, then you can look to expand and export into countries which have colder climates. This can be a ground source heat pump expansion strategy again, which you can keep in mind and suggest accordingly. So at every stage we carefully understand the company. At every stage we understand the E3, P3 and F3 relation, and we don't miss anything. That is of most importance. Hottayr's heat pumps are subject to the same attention to development and improvement as its gas boilers. Like I said, the product may change, but the company's culture remains the same. Tomorrow if Apple removes a new phone, I know it's going to be good because of its backlog, because of its culture, because of its backdated history. Same with Hottayr. Just for an example, I gave it to you. So customer feedback is again something that we count as important. Hottayr pays close attention to feedback from customers, particularly with regards to whether their heat pumps are providing sufficient hot water and maintaining their homes at a comfortable temperature. So we take that feedback from customers. The feedback is an important element of ongoing product development. The major investment for Hottayr is ongoing product development. In all my videos, you'll see that I'm very casual, candid, just as I am, because that's how I feel we can connect to the students better and they understand my explanations better. So now my question is, we are taking the feedback from customers, right? But do we have any system where everything is being collated and then automatically and then systematic decisions are being made? Is there anything where everything is collated automatically, where all the data is stored in one place and then decisions are taken based on that data? They're just saying that we have taken feedback from customers, which we are using for product development. But is there an automated system for the same? Is there an artificial intelligence system for the same? If not, then it could be an opportunity, right? Big data analysis, big data systems is what can be used here so that you can serve your customer better. E3 syllabus. Next, product features. Hottayr was one of the first domestic heat pump manufacturers to offer the option of reversing the heat flow so your homes can be cooled during the summer months. You offered this as a new product development, and we know that in Norland this is needed. So this is important for Norland's weather. This also opens up the opportunity to expand into the Asia Pacific market, which is a growing market because of the climatic conditions in Asia Pacific segment like Japan, China, India, other parts of Asia Pacific. I think you can say that the temperature in certain parts of those countries can match that of Norland. So highs going above 30, lows coming to 5-10 degrees. It does happen in all of these parts of the world as well, right? So an expansion strategy into Asia Pacific, which is the fastest and largest growing market, will be important, will be something that can be looked upon. Let's put it that way. Hottayr's heat pumps can connect to consumers' home Wi-Fi, enabling them to use an app on their smartphones to track the heat energy captured by their heat pumps. So this is first evidence that we have a digital product, let's say that way. An application, a mobile application is a digital product, right? So this is the first sign that we have a digital product, which is our own application that customers can download after connecting their home Wi-Fi to track the heat energy captured by their heat pumps. This data is also automatically uploaded and sent to Hottayr, who uses it to monitor the use and the performance of its heat pumps. So it's quite clear that the management of the app will need a data team, will need a data protection team, and will need a development team. But now you have access to all of this customer data, huge customer data. It makes, first of all, an opportunity for big data, but privacy of this information will also be important. You might have read in the news, there are lots of big companies who have been exposed to data leaks, data attacks, and then they are paying millions in lawsuits because they haven't kept customer data safe. So another risk to note, and your data management topics become very important. So looking at cybersecurity framework and a systematic cybersecurity management team could be the next step for our business as we continue to grow. This identifies the need of your E3 and P3 syllabus. Hottayr also uses this Wi-Fi connection to upgrade and update the operating software in the heat pumps in order to improve its efficiency. Consumers must decide whether or not to activate this connection after that heat pumps have been installed, but obviously most are going to choose to do so. Activation is a very simple process, and all upgrades are then loaded automatically. Maintaining, updating the software is seen to be an ongoing and continuous task for our business, which we must keep in mind, because just opening up the app is only one part. Then running it, serving your customer, making it better and better and better is an ongoing process. So an IT team, a designated IT team will be needed, because our business is now, let's say, reliant on IT, because you can't transfer that upgrade to your heat pump. Then how will customers enjoy the full benefits of your heat pumps? Your product is not being 100% used to its efficiency. We don't want that to happen. So the app has become now a critical part of your business. We have given you some supplementary reading here. some supplementary insight we have given you over here. Why? Because we want you to look at some supplementary real world information to give you insights into what is really happening in this industry. So what we did was we searched the internet for big data opportunities in this domestic heating market. And we came up with some must know facts of how big companies in this real world are using big data to really harness the full potential and provide maximum efficiency to the customer for their heating products. With climate change accelerating and built environments, built homes, accounting for nearly 40% of the energy use worldwide, energy efficiency has become a key objective for building management. Smart building technology offers tools for achieving optimal energy efficiency using sensors that generate comprehensive data on equipment functionality and environmental conditions. If you install these different sensors in your heat pumps, then you can keep generating data which you can use better to help equipment functionality suit environment conditions. With this assistance of analytics softwares and big data for building energy management, energy consumption is more easily controlled. So this is something extra that we are giving you, diverting away from the pre-scene, and that's why we've called it supplementary reading, because we feel that we should give you something extra to tell you how data is being used in this particular business. So how big data is being used by product manufacturers in this real world? They're using it for advanced analytics, which means to get an understanding of their equipment performance even more, they're including more and more sensors in their heat pumps. So our company can do this as well and then use the big data to give better performance related outputs. Second, they're using big data for intelligent insights. It enables the benchmarking of the heat pump system against industry standards and then show your customer that you have the best possible heat pump in the country, and just show them how you're ahead of your customers, ahead of your competitors, sorry. So big data is being used to provide intelligent insights as well. Third, preventive maintenance. Big data is being used to understand where a problem can occur and preventing that problem from occurring altogether. It's being used for making informed decisions as well. Which home constructors, which home builders in which country are preferring central heating systems. You can have access, or you can gain that data, or you can try to capture that data to make sure that you can make informed decisions on where you are supposed to market, how you are supposed to market, how you want to look at the market, and how you want to just put yourself out there. This is what companies in the real world are doing to actually harness the full potential of big data. Now, why have I told you all of this? All of this tells us that the big data opportunities are great in this industry. So we must see if we can harness the full potential of big data or not. Because our company Hottayr is also a big company. Our company Hottayr has also been in the market for a long time. Our company Hottayr also has its own app, its own internet system. So are we using big data? If we are not using big data, these are the ways you can use big data and you can suggest the company move forward to serve its customers better. So that's why I gave you this small supplementary reading, just to give you an insight into what is happening in the real world, so you can relate a little bit more. After that fruitful big data discussion, we are back to the pre-scene now, back to speaking about the pre-scene. So Hottayr's heat pump factory is located in Nolan's Maxtown. It employs 2,400 staff. Hottayr also maintains a head office that employs 2,600 administrative staff who are responsible for a range of functions that include accounting, purchasing, sales, human resource, IT, research and development. Okay. The head office is located in the business district of the central city. So if you look at the size of the company, that itself tells you the magnitude and how the large the company is. One factory, gas boilers, has 3,800 staff, which is moving towards the market that is shrinking. Gas boilers are moving downwards in terms of popularity. So you may have to deal with staff movements, staff redundancies, employee motivation, because when the market is going down, you won't need that much production, right? So what are you going to do with 3,800 staff? How are you going to handle it? Ethics comes into the picture again. Next, the heat pump factory has 2,400 staff and the admin has 2,600 staff. Altogether, you can see how large the company is and how huge the company's different operations are, because we hire nearly 8,800 people. A huge company. The IT department is nominally under the control of Hottayr's chief finance officer. The CFO is looking at the IT department. Now this breathes a sign of something that's not right, because for such a large company who has IT at the center of its operations, with our app and the updates, software updates to the heat pumps, and along with the opportunities of big data all coming under IT, do you think that the finance director will be able to look at everything simultaneously? He has to take care of finance, accounting, treasury, as well as IT. For a large company, the way forward could be to appoint an CIO, Chief Informations Officer. Nothing has been mentioned about this in the pre-scene. So the Chief Information Officer could be one position that we look at filling, because he can be in charge of the entire IT service in the IT department in the organization. This is part of your P3 syllabus, which further means that we have not committed to data management, and hence we would not be able to reap all the opportunities from the same, because we don't have a dedicated manager, we don't have a dedicated director, we don't have a dedicated chief information officer who has this technical knowledge and technical experience to guide IT forward. So that's one thing that I'm thinking about, because the CIO role has been spoken about in the pre-scene extensively. In the P3 syllabus extensively, and IT has been spoken about in the pre-scene extensively. So there is a data center with the head office supported by a remote backup site at a separate location. So you have a backup site as well, and there is one data center in the head office. Now just think over here the benefits and the costs of having a backup center, because your company is so IT based, so IT reliant. Backup will be very important, right? So just pause for a couple minutes and think about the IT benefits, the benefits of having a backup site and the drawbacks of having a backup site. IT staff provide programming and data management support for whole of Hottayr. So there's one IT department that gives information to entire Hottayr's IT requirements. So protection of data will be very important when data is being shared. When data is being shared internally, protection of the same will also be important. This is our data protection. This brings in our data protection topics from the P3 syllabus, which is again very important, which is very vital to address. Hottayr has three main categories of customers. One is your house builders, which we have already spoken about. The extra category of customers spoken about is energy providers. So first, energy providers such as Nolan Gas, which supply and install the central heating systems for homeowners. If you're going for boilers, then you may need your LPG requirements, your LPG gas cylinders, which are given by Nolan Gas. So Nolan Gas, which supplies and installs central heating systems for homeowners, where the boiler comes from you, but everything else is coming from Norland Gas. So they become one of your customers because gas boilers are still being used. They're not popular, but they're still being used. Next, large house building companies which build housing estates that may have hundreds of homes which require central heating. So obviously they become your clients. They buy from you. Building merchants who provide a wholesale service for smaller businesses such as plumbers. They also buy from you. Small house builders who do not order in bulk. So we have customers who don't order in bulk. We have customers who order in bulk such as Norland Gas and large household companies as well. But if I take an overview of this, I will see that the customer segments that we are looking to is the B2B segment. So this will largely be business to business over here. The customer is not coming directly, the end user is not coming directly and choosing the heat pump for himself or choosing the boiler for himself for that matter. So this is a B2B market predominantly, let me put it that way, with limited direct customer touch. So again, time to ask yourself, advantages of B2B, disadvantages of B2B. Both need to be thought about over here. Next, homeowners rarely express any interest in the brand of boiler or heat pump. I spoke about this, right? No customer is going to directly come and buy the boiler from you or buy the heat pump from you. So homeowners rarely express any interest in the brand of boiler or heat pump. New homes come equipped with heating systems. Owners who are replacing existing heating systems will usually rely on their installers to recommend the most suitable heat source. So they'll ask the building merchant, they'll ask the household company, they'll ask Norland Gas, which system are they using in their house building or which system are they recommending. So your marketing to large house building companies, to building merchants will be something that is important. Installers often recommend Hottayr's boilers because they have an excellent reputation for quality and efficiency. This we already know. Hottayr's heat pumps are also regarded as offering excellent quality and efficiency. They are quieter in operation than most competing brands. This becomes your competitive advantage over here. This is an important consideration because the electric pump used to drive the flow of the refrigerant must be running whenever the heating is switched on. So it's a continuous cycle and a continuous process. So for it to be quiet, for it to be a little bit less noisy is a very important consideration than your competitors. It becomes your competitive advantage as well. So that is an important consideration like I spoke. Hottayr exports its boilers to several countries, all of which are in the same geographical region of Norland. So we have not looked at, specifically in terms of boilers, we have not looked at expansion into other developing parts of the world where boilers are still being used. So because the demand for boilers is going down overall, there will still be geographies in the world that will use boilers, that will have to use boilers. So maybe we can look at that market to fulfill the demand. Secondly, they've only mentioned that our boilers are exported to several countries. Before they told us that we export to some countries. Now they're telling us boilers are exported to some countries, but no mention about heat pumps being exported. So I'm just keeping that in mind because they haven't mentioned anything, right? Export sales are limited by the fact that many countries have warmer climates. So there is little or no demand for central heating systems. So when you are deciding which country to expand into, it will be very important to keep in mind the climate, which we have spoken about as well. Hottayr has two main rivals, both in Norland and in exports. First rival is Thermwick, which is based in Norland. It also sells boilers and heat pumps, but they are cheaper than us and less efficient than us. So they don't compete with us on quality, they compete on price because theirs is cheaper. And obviously cheaper, so less quality material and less efficient than Hottayr. But still, this is a huge investment for any homeowner, and that is why the homeowner is going to think 2, 3, 4, 5 times before he invests anywhere in terms of central heating. So if he has a little bit of a lesser budget, or if he's buying a house, or the home builder itself, the constructor, the constructor who's making the house has a little bit of a less budget on central heating systems, he may go for Thermwick. So Thermwick also has its market for people and for organizations that want to go for a slightly cheaper option. Next, there is Flownice. However you want to say it, I'm saying Flownice is based in Eastland. So this is a temperate country again with a climate that is colder than Norland. Eastland's currency is E-dollars. Flownice is the largest manufacturer of boilers and heat pumps in its home country, although Hottayr also makes some sales, so small percentage of sales in that market. So expansion in this market, Flownice, which you are of Eastland, where Flownice operates, can be seen as an opportunity, because right now you're only making some sales. Flownice also exports its boilers to the countries in which Hottayr makes sales, including Norland. Flownice's products are comparable in terms of quality. So over here now you have a little bit more direct competition, let's call it that way, because they are offering the same product, same quality, so pretty much around the same price range. We call it brand competition. So you are in price competition with Thermwick, you are in brand competition with Flownice, because you are competing based on brand, right? There's nothing different between your product and that of, in terms of quality, nothing different between your product and Flownice's product. So why should a customer choose you over Flownice? Because of your brand name, because of your culture, because of your competitive advantages that we have spoken about. Thermwick and Flownice are both more heavily focused on boilers than Hottayr, although each sells its own range of air source heat pumps. So they are focused on boilers, which is a reducing market. So the direction is on a market whose market share is declining, which is boilers. Because of our risk-seeking attitude, we have stayed ahead of the competition, and now we have favorable support of the government as well, who are willing to invest and who are willing to encourage heat pumps. And this will help us grow further. So we made a quick comparative analysis as well over here. Now we are going to extract from Hottayr's annual report. In this annual report, they're giving us some extracts. They're giving us some details that have been published in our annual report. The first thing published is our mission and values. Please remember that for any business, it is absolutely vital to stay true to the mission and the value of the inherent business. For example, the mission is the reason for being of our organization. Now, our organization exists and has established itself as a trustworthy supplier of excellent heating products. When somebody buys a Hottayr product, or when a homeowner buys a home builder rather buys a Hottayr product, they know that it's going to be excellent. So whenever you are suggesting something from Hottayr, please remember that it should always focus on quality, safety, reliance, efficiency that we have spoken about. Our vision is to lead the move towards a zero carbon world, which means move towards sustainability. And if we are moving towards sustainability, the solar panel suggestion that we had given becomes more reliant over here, because that's our vision. In the future, we are seeing ourselves moving towards zero carbon products, or products which are sustainable. And our core values are that we keep our promises, we ensure that the need of the customer is met. Hottayr is constantly striving to enhance its products, making it safe, efficient, and economical. Hottayr people trust and respect one another in the organization, and it is a safe and healthy place to work. All of these encompass the nature of Hottayr, And whenever you suggest anything or speak about anything from Hottayr's perspective, you have to keep in mind these core principles that we are speaking about, these core aspects that we are mentioning, because these are my values. This is my vision moving towards a zero carbon world, moving towards zero carbon. So again, the boilers products that we are selling could be a soon diversified or divested, let me call it that way, divested product for us, because we are leading towards zero carbon. We want to move towards sustainability. That's our vision. So going into the future, the commitment is not to boilers. The commitment will be to new methods and to the heat pumps that we currently have. Always remember, stay true to your mission, stay true to your core values, stay true to your vision. So whenever you are writing something, use this. Use this by saying that, okay, the mission of our company is to always supply excellent heating products. When you start your answer that way, or when you end your answer that way, it really adds value to your preparation. And it tells the examiner that, okay, this person has studied the pre-scene. This person has gone through the pre-scene. So we are doing this detailed pre-scene analysis with you because firstly, it's important to understand our company. Secondly, we are giving you ideas which you can remember and then use when we go to mock question writing. Now, if you don't use anything and don't relate anything when you go to mock question writing, what's the point of such a detailed pre-scene analysis that we are making with you? It doesn't add any value, right? So the value is in making sure that these ideas are taken on board. These ideas are something that you register with and then use them when the time comes. So when I'm mentioning something, please make sure you're paying attention, or at least going through it again when you have the time. This pre-scene has to be done at least 10 to 12 times before the date of your exam if you want to do well. Because again, knowing your company is important, and secondly, knowing how the information is to be used, where it is to be used, will only come to you if you've gone through it multiple times. And if you finally use it when you go to mock question writing, all these ideas that I've given you, all these aspects that I'm speaking about, when you use it when you go to mock question writing, that's when the real commitment of the pre-scene will show. That's when the real effort that you have put into the pre-scene will show. Next section is about the board of directors. Next section speaks about the board of directors of our company. Now, firstly, knowing the board of directors of any company is very important, because the board of directors are the people who are running the company. They are the people who will give direction to the company. They are the people who will make day-to-day decisions for the company. So we need to know them. We need to know their competencies. We need to know what their background is, what they are good at, so we can use it when the time comes. How will we use it? I'll tell you. So first, we are speaking about Martin Gregory, who is the non-executive chairman. He's the chairman. The role of a chairman has been explained in your syllabus areas. Please make sure you have gone through it. It's explained in P3. Martin was a leading commercial lawyer. He spent most of his career with a major law firm, rising to the rank of partner. He was partner in charge of the firm for 5 years before he retired. In addition to his role with Hottayr, Martin chairs the board of Knoll and Opera. Martin joined Hottayr's board in 2019. So they're telling me that this person, Martin, is an expert in law. So his expertise in law will come in handy with dealing with rules and regulations in our heavily regulated industry. He's a commercial lawyer, but for sure he has that knowledge. For sure he'll have the knowledge of rules, regulations. Also, we need to keep a lookout at his commitment. As the chairman, he's expected to run the board. He's expected to chair meetings. And he should be able to commit time for the same. If he's also appointed at the board of directors of another company, he might not have the time. So could there be a scenario where we appoint a new chairman? They can ask you, what does a chairman do? We need to appoint a new chairman. Martin has resigned, or Martin has now moved on. We need to appoint a new chairman. who will it be, and will we choose internally, will we choose externally, what is the role of a chairman, could be asked, and that is a scenario that is often asked. So like I said, we need to understand the board. So here we are understanding Martin, who is a law related expert. Now firstly, it's important to understand his competency. Secondly, when you go to mock question writing and you're speaking about anything related to law, you're speaking about anything related to rules, regulations, you can in your answer include one simple line saying that, let's speak about this to Martin, let's have Martin's overview on this, and then you can continue writing your answer. It will tell the examiner that this person knows what the pre-scene is, knows what the directives are. So the more you use the pre-scene in your mock questions, in your writing, the more integrated your writing will be, and the better your, just better the process will be when an examiner checks your answer. So please remember that this integration that I'm speaking about is very, very important, is very, very vital for your preparation. So remember Martin, okay, law expert. Whenever anything related to law that I'm speaking about, I can use Martin's name. Just as a suggestion, it will add integration marks. Second, we have Dr. Eva DeVolder. She is the Chief Executive Officer. She runs the company. Day-to-day decisions of the company are taken by Eva. Now, Eva is an engineer by profession. She has a doctorate in mechanical engineering. Eva joined Hottayr as a design engineer in 1998. She played a significant role in the design of Hottayr's heat pumps that have now become so famous. So her competency cannot be questioned. She spent several years as Hottayr's head of research before being promoted to Chief Operating Officer in 2012. She was further promoted to Chief Executive Officer in 2020. So she has technical knowledge. She has worked her way up from the bottom, knows all the business details, and this is very important for the CEO who is responsible for the company's operations. She is going to be an expert in technicalities. So if you have anything related to the design of heat pumps, anything related to the technicality in the process, you can suggest, let's speak to Eva about this, because she knows and she's been an expert in Hottayr's heat pumps. You just put that line in your answer when you feel it's relevant, and it really changes the perspective of the examiner. So she spent, like we said, several years as head of research as well. So for research as well, her name can be used. She has also worked as a COO, which means she has knowledge about the technicalities of our company. And yes, she's going to be a big asset for the company, because as CEO, she knows all the details of the company and she knows all the technicalities that entail a heat pump, which is one of our major products. Next, we have Bogdan Amuzescu. He is the Chief Operating Officer now. So Bogdan joined Hottayr as a management trainee straight after graduating from university, and he has held a number of management roles in Hottayr's factories. He had risen to general manager of the boiler factory before he joined the board as COO. So again, he becomes arguably one of the most important parts of the business as well, because our product manufacturing and operations is what defines our business. If our heat pump is not well manufactured, if our heat pump is not manufactured to the highest standards, then no matter what the business is and what the past of the business was, the reputation won't hold. And all of this is part of the operations manager job. So his past work experience, where he has again worked through the ranks, will be a big plus for us. So when you're speaking about, operations, when you're speaking about operational difficulties, the name of Bogdan can be used in your answer writing, obviously. Next, we have Elaine Barros. Elaine is the Chief Finance Officer. She is going to be your point of contact. Majority of your exam questions will be answering and helping Elaine so that she can present it to the board. Now, Elaine is a qualified accountant. She passed her professional examinations while working as a trainee accountant with Noland Steel. She has since held several senior roles in a variety of manufacturing companies, and she joined our board in 2019. So she has worked for other manufacturing companies as well. So she'll be well accustomed to what a manufacturing business is like, what a manufacturing business can involves, what a manufacturing business's processes are. All of that she will know because she has the work experience and the background over there. So Elaine joined the board in 2019, and her presence and experience in a leading role could be important, and she's a qualified accountant. So again, she's an expert of her own area. Next, we have Emmanuel, marketing director. Emmanuel studied marketing at Nolan's Central City University. Since then, he has worked for a number of major manufacturing companies. He took a career break in 2011 to complete his MBA. So again, very well educated. Emmanuel worked as a senior marketing manager with Hottayr from 2014 to 2020, at which time he was promoted to marketing director. Well seasoned, well experienced, well qualified, I would say. And his innovative marketing is very, very important in today's modern businesses. So how can we market? Whenever anything related to marketing you are speaking, you can use Emmanuel's name and his technical ability because he has all of these qualifications. He's a qualified director, well experienced director. So anything related to marketing, feel free to use his name. Next, we have Professor Amina Rajab, who is the research director. For us, research is very important, and it's good that we have a representative of research here because our company's major competency has been product development. Without research, that's not possible. So Amina studied mechanical engineering at the Central City University. She graduated with honors and was offered a place on the university's PhD program. Her doctoral thesis was on the optimization of heat output from heat pumps in cold climates. So she's done a PhD. There's nothing ahead of a PhD that you can do in terms of a doctorate. A doctorate, a PhD, there's nothing ahead that you can do. You're an expert in that matter when you have completed that study. And we have one person who's representing that study, that background on the board. So her knowledge is obviously very, very important. She was appointed to Hottayr's board in 2018, and she remains a visiting professor at Central City University. Now, her background and expertise in the subject of heat pumps is invaluable for us. And any technical matter discussions could go through her in terms of, knowledge, in terms of direction, in terms of ideas. You can suggest her name. Up until now, we were speaking about executive directors. They've given us some information on non-executive directors as well. So we have Akira, who is the senior independent non-executive director. Akira spent his career in corporate finance and in the world of investment banks. He developed an interest in funding wind farms and other enterprises that aimed to reduce energy emissions. So he's also committed to sustainability. And our vision is also to become net zero carbon emission company. So Akira will be important to help us to achieve that because he has a representation on the board as a non-executive director for sure, but he still has a representation. He's also a non-executive director. Over here they say also a non-executive, which means he's non-executive for our company and he's non-executive for Central City Children's Hospital. Next, we have Patricia, another independent non-executive director. Now, Patricia has a career in politics. She was a member of parliament for Hightown, an industrial town in Nolan, for 17 years. During that time, she served as junior minister for business. She retired from politics and non-executive director by Hottayr. She is also a non-executive director for a television documentary maker. Now, this is slightly bringing in the question of ethics over here because whenever you have any government rules, government regulations that you may be part of, it will be important to make Patricia or important to not involve Patricia because she has had a career in politics. What if people think that corporate political activity is taking place or lobbying is taking place through her? It's not so corporate political activity is not illegal, but it's a very, very gray area which will harm the ethics of a company. So one area to know, but her connections, her her acquaintances can definitely be used. Her acquaintances, her dealing relationships can be important for us because it's a heavily regulated industry. Next, we have Ye Haitao, another non-executive director. Ye has held a number of posts again in Noland's government. He has served in a variety of senior roles, assisting in drafting legislation on a diverse range of areas. He was appointed to Hottayr's board in 2021. So the issue that I won't say issue, it is our comparative advantage, but for the outside world, it may seem as we have appointed these two directors so that we are in the favor of the government, so the government looks favorably on us. We must make sure that that is not true, and we must make sure that we have appointed them because they merit the position, and they have excellent background, they have excellent knowledge, they have excellent past experiences even in the government that will help us as a business. But remember the CPA aspect that I spoke about. Now they've given us the structure of our company. They've tried to explain the structure of our company over here by giving us some details. So firstly, we know that we have Dr. Eva de Volder at the top because she is the Chief Executive Officer. Under her, we have Bogdan, who looks at operations, Elaine, finance, Emmanuel, marketing, and Professor Amina looking at research. Now, if you see under Bogdan, everything related to operations is being covered, manufacturing and human resources. Now, in many large organizations, there is generally a separate human resource department. There is separate a human resource director because when you have 8,000 plus employees like our organization, there is every day going to be an issue. There is every day going to be something which needs to be dealt with. There is every day going to be the need for new people. So that is something that we have to think upon. Secondly, we have Elaine, who looks at finance, management, treasury, and IT. Again, many big organizations have a separate IT director, separate IT department. Emmanuel looks at advertising and customer relations. Okay. Amina looks at product development and certification of new products. So I'm seeing the need for expansion of the board a little bit over here with experience in IT, with experience in human resource, because as we continue to grow, as we continue to diversify, we may need different perspectives and different technical expertise in this matter. So now we have the functional structure of this organization that is being discussed upon. Remember, a functional structure is one that many traditional organizations use, where everything is grouped based on functions. So everything related to operations under Bogdan, finance related to Elaine, promotion related to Emmanuel, research related to Amina. Everything is under their own perspective, is under their own respective areas, different functions. There's a finance function, there's marketing function, research function. Everything is divided function wise. So generally this is recommended for small sized organizations who work in a stable environment and do not offer many different kinds of products. So we don't offer many different kinds of products. We have 2-3 main categories, but we are not a small sized organization. We don't work in a stable environment. So there could be a scenario where we are expanding into, a new market, and maybe that's why we now have a divisional structure. We now have a structure divided based on geography. So Norland is one function. Then, for example, Eastland is one function. India is one function. Just giving you an example. That does happen, geographical based divisional structures. They can easily raise an exam question saying that, we are moving from the functional structure to the divisional structure. How will, how do you think this should be managed? What is your major concerns about this? What is your major positives about it? You may have to give that, because it looks like the organization is stuck to a very traditional structure, which is, like I said, used for smaller sized organizations. Now to a very interesting point, which is the board committees that they have given from the corporate governance perspective, which is part of your E3 and your P3 syllabus. Majority in P3, this is a very important discussion here. There will be a question around this somewhere, somehow. They tell us that the board has some committees. Now, firstly, let's look at the number of directors, executive directors that we have. If you look at the number, you have 1 Chief Executive Officer plus 4 executive directors. Okay. Now, if I see, I have 1 non-executive chair plus 3 non-executive independent directors. Okay. So there is an automatic imbalance in the board which I am seeing. But let's keep that aside and see that we have an audit, risk, remuneration and nominations committee, which is good practice. Now let's look at it from the corporate governance perspective. Now, after looking at directors, we can clearly see that all of them are highly qualified, experienced, and they merit their positions. Some of the directors are relatively new to their positions, but seem to be well educated and experienced to propel the company forward. Now, if you look at the structure of your organization, corporate governance is not honored in every way. The board should be made up of equal executives, equal non-executives. We have 4 executives plus CEO, 3 non-executives plus the chairman. So the board is imbalanced. First thing. On the other hand, the roles of the CEO and the chairman are separate, which is good. Corporate governance is being met. CEO and chairman should be different people, so one person does not have all the power. There's a presence of audit, remuneration, nomination, risk committee. Okay, that is also good. But all the committees mentioned must have at least 3 independent non-executive directors as part of them. If you see, we have 2 independent non-executives part of the audit committee, and then we have the chairman who is part of the audit committee. Chairman can be part. He cannot chair that committee, but there should be 3 independent non-executive directors for each committee for a large organization. So firstly, there is a need for an independent non-executive director to be appointed. So all committees must have at least 3 independent non-executive directors. In addition, the chairman can be part but not chair that committee. We currently have 2 independent NEDs as part of our committee plus the chairman. Now, as we are a big company, appointing another NED who could be part of these committees can be seen as the way forward, which is so straightforward and so clearly seen over here. So that's one aspect. The other aspect which is noticed is Martin is the non-executive chair. They've not said independent non-executive chairman. So is the independence of Martin under question? They've not mentioned anywhere about Martin being independent. For all the others, they've said independent, independent, independent. So is the independence of Martin under question? The independence topic has been spoken about in the P3 syllabus. Make sure you revise that part. And this is the corporate governance outlook of our company, which you have to very, very clearly understand. And this is the way that I always choose to explain in detail. Now, Hottayr's chief internal auditor reports to the convener of the audit committee. Pretty standard. Internal auditor reports to the head of audit committee. This is good practice, standard practice, whatever you want to call it. And the rules of different committees is important to understand, which is part of P3 syllabus. What is audit committee? Its roles. What is risk committee? Its roles. Nomination committee? Its roles. This is straight from the P3 syllabus, and you should know this to make sure you know what each committee's job is in my organization. Next aspect, very interestingly, they've given us Hottayr's principal risks. So the principal risks of Hottayr have been given here. The first risk that they have identified is that our systems are expensive, and so Hottayr's product sales are affected by economic cycles, affected by the economy. And for this, the board is trying to diversify by selling in as many different countries as possible. So economic risk is trying to be dealt with by diversification. Okay, so the company's movement in the future is going to be more export. Fine. The company is vulnerable to credit risk arising from the fact that customers are themselves exposed to fluctuations in the economy. Hottayr aims to mitigate this risk through diversification across different markets as well as setting credit limits. Cash flows, the next risk is cash flows can be volatile because of fluctuations in revenues and also because of the company's exposure to currency movements. Now, cash flows and credit risk go hand in hand. If a customer doesn't pay you, then obviously your cash flows are going to be affected. Hottayr's treasury monitors and manages cash flows and currency exposures. Okay, fine. The company's employees make a vital contribution to its success. The manufacture and quality control of boilers and heat pumps requires care and precision. So we hold monthly meetings to make sure that everybody is excellently trained. This is how this risk is mitigated, because we can't accept any lapse in quality. That's not our culture. The company's products require a steady supply of material. So we also make heavy use of semiconductors and other electronic components. Remember, you may have to buy this from other parts of the countries. So commodity risk is what you are exposing yourself to. And this risk is also related to currency risk. So everywhere risks are being mentioned, and the list that you have gathered up until now on the different risks will also come into picture over here. The company is vulnerable to changes in legislation. We have spoken about this. If legislation changes, it's going to be an issue and it has to be, thought about. Consumer demand for central heating systems is affected by environmental concerns. If the environment is going to be hot, then heating equipment is not really going to be useful, right? Okay, so they've given us a quick brief of the risks that our company faces. But are these the only risks that my company faces? Why are we limiting our risk analysis? There are a whole bunch of risks which you should have identified by now, because I have asked you to maintain a list of risks, such as personal data, reputational risk, litigation risk, staff turnover risk, financial risks. There are so many aspects which we have spoken about. So your list of risks will be useful now. And because we are doing this whole discussion on risks, the topic of the enterprise risk management framework comes into your picture, P3 syllabus. It also brings the discussion of the model of internal controls. These theories could come in handy over here, and these are straight from your P3 syllabus. So make sure you revise them, make sure you spend time on them. And with that, very clearly we have understood what Hottayr is and its systems and its people and who are running the organization. Next up is a very important section, as you would imagine, which is the financial section. Because again, without knowing your company's financials, how are you going to know the strengths of your company, the weaknesses of your company? So financials are also very important to understand a company's nature, to understand a company's trajectory. So our financial analysis is very, very detailed and very different from the conventional analysis that you may see. Because my method is, the first thing I will do is I will share with you and I will look at with you and I will go through with you the actual financials which have been released. So the actual numbers is what I will first go through with you. This is the actual statement of profit and loss from the pre-scene, which we have picked up and gone and put over here. So I'll go through that with you, and then I will share an analysis in terms of ratios, in terms of percentages on this to you in the next page. So I'll give you a very clear, in-depth analysis of each statement one by one. Firstly, we are looking at the consolidated statement of profit or loss for the year ended 31st December. It's already a consolidated statement, which means you may have already acquired companies. Hottayr may have must already have subsidiaries, must already have acquired companies, and hence it's a consolidated statement. So it tells me about, again, the culture of the business where we are okay with expansion through acquisition, expansion and setting up subsidiaries. That is also something that the business has been doing. Let's come to the numbers now. They've given us 2020 figures and 2021 figures. So revenue from 2020 has gone up close to 50 million. Okay, a good positive sign for my business. The operating costs have also gone up by close to 50 million, which means revenue went up, but the cost to service that revenue also went up. Revenue went up, costs also went up. So my profit was in the same range. It was 121 and it became 128. So I'll say in the same range. Operating profit is 128 million as we read about it. Finance costs have remained the same at 15 million. Now the costs generally, finance cost is the interest that you're paying, right? Your interest costs remain the same because maybe you didn't take any new loan. Maybe the interest percentage didn't go up. Good sign for the business that the interest percentage didn't go up and you didn't take any further loans. Okay. Next, your tax expense marginally went up. It's not considerable. Profit for the year also went up, but not considerable. Now, if you see, these are absolute numbers. What we will now do for you is we have a very clear percentage analysis for you over here. Because see, sometimes what happens is students find it very difficult to remember 750 million as the revenue or 97 million as your profit for the year. 7656 for as revenue, 128 for operating profit. Remembering these numbers is quite a tedious job, right? And you don't need to even remember them. We are going through this analysis to understand our company, but a very hidden, in-depth aspect which certain people just miss out on is not using the financials as part of your mock questions. So what students will often do is, they'll just write that our company has growth in revenue. Okay. But if you write that our company has shown an 8.15% or 8% growth in revenue, it just adds a completely different perspective from the examiner. Because the examiner knows that this person has gone through the pre-scene, this person has studied the pre-scene, and this person has spent time on the pre-scene. It adds a whole lot of value to your preparation. So don't take that lightly, and that is why we've given these numbers to you. So when you are going through the pre-scene 10 times, 15 times, 20 times, automatically these numbers will fit into your mind. You don't have to learn them. But when you go through anything 10 times, automatically you start remembering parts of it, right? And don't try to remember everything, just revenue, operating profit, one or two numbers here and there. If you remember and then use it, when you go to mock writing, it changes the perspective of the examiner. So first reason we are doing this analysis is to give you an understanding of what the company's financials are. And second, to give you numbers which you can use when you go to mock writing. So the revenue increased by 8.15%. Operating costs went up by 8.65%. So revenue went up, but cost is also going up with that. We have to make sure we control the costs. But there was because the operating costs went up, the operating profit was in a considerable same band and the increase was close to 6%. Finance cost, no increase, it's remained the same. And your profit before tax also showed a same band increase. It's in the same zone. 6% is very standard. If it would have been 10, 15, 20%, then you can say healthy increase. But over here, 6%, okay, in the right direction, which further shows that the company has to do something new. Company has to do something innovative. Company has to expand. Company has to diversify to make sure that the revenue growth and the profit growth in terms of controlling, increasing the revenue and then controlling the costs is healthy. Next, your effective tax expense, pretty much the same. Operating profit margin in the same range. Profit after tax margin in the same range. So your margins have remained the same from the last year in spite an increase in revenue. So focus has to be on protecting costs a little bit more. The conclusions, everything that I spoke about has been put into words for you. So there has been an healthy, I will say there has been a good increase in revenue, because if you look at the revenue numbers, the revenue is 8.15. So I won't say very good, but okay, considerable. But the profits have remained 5-6%. That is something that needs to be looked at. Finance cost stayed constant. And overall, the margins decreased slightly in the current year. They're in the same zone, but slightly decreased in the current year. That was the statement of profit and loss. Next, we have the Hottayr Group statement of changes in equity. Now, I went through the profit and loss with you. It will be something that you will also have to go through once by yourself. You will have to go through it again by yourself in the same way that I explained, and the things will start to make a little bit more sense. That is why it's given to you as a video recorded explanation, so you can go back, view it, play it, so on and so forth. So Hottayr Group statement of changes in equity. So the opening balance share capital and the closing balance share capital is the same. So no new shares were issued, and we will also see this in the balance sheet. But as of now, we know that no new equity finance was raised. Now there is 103 million of retained earnings, profit you made 97, and out of that 97 million you paid out 42 million as dividends. So it's first of all a good sign that you paid out dividends. Dividends keep shareholders happy. Secondly, the dividend payout ratio is close to 43.3%, which I will say is okay, good in terms of the dividend income for shareholders, the dividend sign, the dividend, just the onset for shareholders, because they will want to invest in a company that pays good dividends. Okay. But if I think of it from the company's perspective, then I will say that if any company in the world has a great plan forward, has a big investment that's coming up, has a big product development that's coming up, will it pay out close to 40-50% of its profits? I don't think so. It will want to reinvest them in the business so that it can build up to that product development, to that profit development, to that situation where that money can be used well rather than paying it out to the shareholders. Remember, shareholders earn in two ways. One, the increase in share price, and second is dividend. So you have chosen to pay a dividend here. It may be a reason that there are no future big or huge developments that are planned, because out of the profit, close to 50% I paid out as a dividend, which means there might not be a big investment plan coming up. There might not be a big investment plan that the board of directors have as of now for the future. That could be one mindset, right? They may not have any positive NPV projects that they want to invest in. But we know that our company Hottayr needs to expand. Our company Hottayr needs to look at new ways of keeping its revenue increasing, keeping its market share at a good position. So in the future, paying such a high dividend, will it be possible when we need money for other developments? That's something to think on. And the study of different dividend policies, the benefits, the drawbacks of paying a dividend becomes very important here, which has been very clearly explained in your F3 syllabus. So please do not overlook the same. Next, after statement of profit and loss, after statement of changes in equity, we come to the statement of financial position. Now, this statement of financial position obviously is the balance sheet, gives us the asset side, gives us the equity side. So let's go through it. Firstly, non-current assets from the last year went up. There can be two reasons for this. The first reason for an increase in property, plant and equipment can be that we purchased new property, plant and equipment. An investment was made in new property, plant and equipment. The second thing can be the old property, plant or generally property or land has been revalued and there has been an increase in the value. That can also be the case. But the first presumption would be that a new investment has been made. Okay. Second, goodwill. Goodwill has remained constant. There was no amortization of goodwill. This again clearly shows that new companies have been purchased in the past, and that is why goodwill has been recognized, because internally generated goodwill cannot be recognized on the balance sheet. So if it was only Hottayr, Hottayr can't say that my goodwill is worth 100 million. When it acquires other companies and takes over their goodwill, their net assets, that is recognized over here, and because it's a consolidated statement, it's shown over here, which shows that the business is okay to acquire companies, to have subsidiaries. A way forward. Next, development costs have gone up and they have capitalized these, which means something valuable from this is going to happen. This is something valuable that will happen here, because if the development costs have been capitalized, which means that in the future an intangible asset will be recognized from the same. In the pre-scene they have mentioned that we have many patents of many technologies because we have been heavily involved in research. So maybe these costs have been capitalized and in the future they are going to give us a valuable insight. They are going to give us a valuable intangible asset. Good sign for the business. Next, current assets, receivables in the same zone, cash in the same zone, not too much of an issue. If you look at equity, for equity, share capital has remained the same. We spoke about this. No new equity was issued. Retained earnings have gone up because you made a profit in the last year and only paid out 50% of that profit. 40% or 40% of that profit was paid out as dividends approximately. That's what we read in the last page. Okay. Borrowings have remained the same. So no new borrowings. Hence, the finance cost was the same. No new borrowings taken. No change in the finance cost. Okay. Trade payables in the same zone. The tax liabilities in the same zone. Total equity and liabilities have been given, which will match with the total assets, obviously. Now, after looking at all of these profit and loss, after looking at the financial and financial position, we see very clearly that the company is pretty much performed in the same way with a slight increase in revenue, but all the other major metrics have remained the same. Further evidence that it could be the time to look at other areas for this company. To further show you that the metrics have remained the same, we have calculated some ratios for you. Remember, all the ratios have been calculated by us, already calculated and presented to you. You don't have to do any deep analysis or any new calculation or any further analysis, nothing needed. Over analysis is also harmful, so stick to what we have provided you. It's more than enough. So return on capital employed is a very important metric, and you'll see that it has remained the same. And return is something that is always looked upon as an important measure for any investor. It's good at 21%. It's obviously very good, but still it's something which has remained the same. So good sign for the business that it's in a healthy zone, but it should always be something that's increasing. So good sign. You can remember ROCE and then use it in your answers. That is why I have put it in red for you, so that you can try to remember it and use it in your capital related questions or profit related questions, growth related questions. Anywhere you can use this ROCE number, and it will surely prove beneficial for you. Surely prove integrative, which the examiner will notice. Alright, non-current asset turnover remained the same. Current ratio in the same zone. Quick ratio in the same zone. Now current and quick ratio is the same because in the balance sheet they have not given us any inventory. This one thing that we I think is pretty not standard, because any manufacturing business generally has inventories. If it doesn't have inventories which are not mentioned over here, then it's obviously a situation where probably the business is using a total quality management system or a GIT system. Everything that they make is being sold because there is an order, because there is already an order that's been placed. That could be one thing that I'm thinking of. So you also think what could be the reason why no inventory has been mentioned here. And that is why your current ratio and quick ratio is the same. The return on assets is something that has also remained in the same zone, and gearing has also remained in the same zone. The only change in gearing is because the retained earnings figure has changed. That is why the equity figure changed, and that is why the gearing has changed a little bit. From 36% it became 33%. But everything else remained the same. No new shares were issued, no new borrowing was taken. So that is why there is only a slight change in gearing. But now comes my question. At 33%, I will say it's a good gearing ratio to have because debt is cheaper than equity. Debt is obviously preferable in terms of finance to a certain level than equity, and this has been spoken about in our F3 syllabus. So it is something that we have to we have to look at. It is something that we have to keep in our mind, and it is something which can, I will say, further we can leverage it a little bit more. Gearing up until 40% I have seen in businesses. It is seen in the businesses, and it is something that is acceptable. But I'll say it's a good gearing ratio to, and this shows that the business is understanding the good importance of gearing, because debt is cheaper than equity. We've spoken about this in the F3 syllabus. So when you are speaking about raising finance, you have both options open of increasing debt a little bit and also issuing new equity. I think both will be very well accepted for this company because the gearing ratio is in balance. But more I'm leaning towards debt in terms of source of finance for our company, because like I said, up until 40% I think is a good figure, but both will be acceptable, but not excessive equity and not excessive debt. If it was 60% debt, 40% equity, then any new finance should have been equity to bring it to balance. If it was 50 and 50, then okay, still a little bit more equity could have been taken to maintain the balance. But because it's 33, I will accept both. That is something that I wanted to mention here, and this is part of your F3 syllabus. So whenever you're speaking about raising finance, keep this gearing figure in mind and make sure that the gearing is not becoming 50, 60, 70% by whatever suggestion you are making in your answers. So everything that I spoke about is put over here as conclusions as well, as suggestions as well. So the return on capital employed measures the effectiveness with which it utilizes its capital, which may be either in the form of debt or equity. The ROCE decreased slightly in 2021 because of the increase in retained earnings, but it's still in the same proportion. Non-current asset turnover indicates how much sales a company is able to make. per dollar that is invested in fixed investments, it has remained constant. The current ratio, quick ratio is the same. A ratio of 1 is usually ideal. In this case, the company is doing well in terms of liquidity and will easily be able to take care of its short-term liabilities, short-term obligations. Also, it is interesting to note quick ratio, current ratio is the same because no inventory has been mentioned in the financial statements. The gearing indicates financial leverage used by the company, decreased slightly, we've already spoken about it, and the return on assets decreased negligibly in the current year. So pretty much standard financial position given over here. Next to an interesting revenue breakdown that they have given. The first two pie charts for 2020 and 2021 look at our product segmentation. We have only two products, boilers and heat pumps. You can see in 2020, heat pumps were the larger section, boilers was the smaller section. In 2021, it has pretty much remained the same. I can't see any huge changes or huge difference from heat pumps from 54 became 55, boilers from 46 became 45. Same zone. Nothing really is changed. So maybe there's some kind of saturation that we have hit in our country. There's some kind of saturation that we have hit in our neighboring countries. There needs to be an expansion into a country which has huge growth prospects. Maybe there needs to be an expansion into a new kind of product like solar panels that we have discussed before. That's what the revenue analysis is telling me. Let me know if it's telling you something else. After that, they have given us the export and Norland sales. So for 2020, export was 39%, and in 2021, export became 44%. Showing that a company is a little bit more committed to export sales, a little bit more committed to sales in other countries. Again, opening up the idea of expansion. So the pie charts above show the proportion of sales between the different product ranges. It looks like there was a very slight increase in the sales of heat pumps in 2021. This is congruent to the forecast of global sales of domestic heating technologies. Demand for boilers is falling. The proportion of export sales has increased too in the current year, which is congruent to the risk mitigation strategy of the Hottayr group laid out in the principal risks table, which is mentioned on page 16. And over here, just before we started the financials, we did the risk table, right? In the risk table itself, it was mentioned that export sales is something that our company is committing to. And how is it taking care of these export sales? Different risk management, like different currency risk management, different, looking at different countries. All of that is being done by our company. And over here is further shown that the export has increased. So what we want to see from here is, again, the overall synopsis is it's in the same zone with exports increasing a little bit for Hottayr. Now, very interestingly, they have given us the financial statements of our competitor, which is Thermwick. They've given us Thermwick's financial statements the same way they did like Hottayr. So they've given us Thermwick's profit and loss, statement of changes in equity, and statement of financial position. We have created an analysis for you of each, exactly like we did for Hottayr, and it's been presented in the pre-seen analysis PDF. So it's something that you will be able to go through, but I'll go through the absolute numbers with you. So the absolute numbers I'll go through with you and I'll explain to you. In the pre-seen PDF, there's an extra, percentage analysis like we had done for Hottayr, where we told you revenue went up by this much, cost of sales went up by this much. Same thing we have done for Thermwick as well, for you to have a look at those numbers. But I'll go through the absolute numbers with you to see the major differences. So firstly, we're looking at Thermwick's financial statements. You'll see their revenue is more than ours. Okay. One reason of this could be that Thermwick competes on price. Its products are priced lower than ours. Maybe that is why the sale is more. Next, the operating costs for Thermwick went up little bit in comparison to the revenue. Revenue has gone up from 790 to 801. Operating costs have gone up from 653 to 641, and rather have reduced from 653 to 641. Sorry. So revenue is increasing, operating costs are decreasing for Thermwick, which clearly shows that they have been able to control costs better than us, more efficient than us. And that is why their operating profit showed a good healthy increase. Their finance costs have also gone down. Maybe they repaid some of the borrowings so they don't have to pay the interest. But their tax expense went up a little bit. Could be because more revenue, so more tax has to be paid. And profit for the year showed a good increase. If you compare just absolute terms, the profit for us was 97 and for them was 130 million. So their profit was larger than us. Their revenue was larger than us. Their costs were better controlled than us. So this comes out in an analysis only when we put it this way, when we present it this way for you. So overall, we'll say Thermwick in terms of revenue is bigger than us. It's our biggest competitor as well, but it's competing on price. So that is why maybe people are going for their products because they are a little bit cheaper. And if they don't have the budget, then what to do? Go with Thermwick because it's still well known and it's still a big company. And for them, they have controlled costs well. The revenue has gone up, but the operating costs have gone down, which is a good sign for any business. So we can use, we can look at benchmarking techniques over here. Because see, in terms of quality, products are not comparable. But in terms of processes, what they have done better than us, we can try to look with an external market analysis, with a product analysis, with a reverse engineering of their product. Somehow we may get to learn something to see how they reduced their costs while increasing their revenue. So something for us to keep in mind over here. Coming to the statement of changes in equity for Thermwick, the only thing I want you to notice here is their profit for the year was 130, out of which they paid out 82 million was paid out, which means their dividend payout ratio is also 63%. So bigger than ours. Ours was close to 42%. Theirs is 63%, bigger than ours, which very clearly shows that they might not have a very big expansion plan or acquisition plan or a product development plan. Otherwise, why would you pay out such a big share of your profit? You'll reinvest it in the business, right? So maybe this is the time where we grow our earnings or raise finance, if for that matter money is needed, raise finance to take chance of a growth opportunity, to take chance of getting ahead of our competitor, to take chance of entering a market that is lucrative. So this could be our chance. That's what I am reading out of this. In the very same way as they gave us the statement of profit and loss, they've given us the statement of changes in equity for Thermwick. And this time around, I have put Thermwick on the right hand side, Hottayr on the left hand side. We've already gone through Hottayr's numbers. Let's go to Thermwick's numbers now. Their property, plant and equipment also increased. Their goodwill has remained the same. No new acquisitions in this year. Development costs also went up. So it seems like every company in this industry is patenting something. They're developing their intangible assets. Okay. Their trade receivables have gone down. The bank balance is pretty much similar to ours. Their share capital has remained the same, which means no new issue of shares from them as well. Retained earnings have gone up because obviously they made a profit. Their borrowings have remained the same. The trade payables have gone down. Tax liability has gone up a little bit because of the increase in revenue. You make more money, you pay more tax. And that brings us to the total equity and liabilities. So I won't say that there are any big insights or any big question marks or any big light bulbs that need to be picked out over here. They've given a pretty standard statement of financial position for both companies, which we have gone through now. Now to a very important statement which we create for our students, which is a comparative statement. So you see, we looked at the absolute numbers, everything was looking fine. We looked at the absolute numbers, you will see that Thermwick is a bigger company than ours, they control costs better. That is true in terms of revenue. That's true. But now let's look at percentages. We have this calculated for your profit and loss and for your statement of financial position. So if you look at revenue, yes, Thermwick's revenue went up, but it went up by only 1.4%. If you see, my revenue went up by 8.5%, which means I am growing faster. I'm taking on market share faster. Maybe my revenue will be equal to Thermwick's in the next year. Could be possible. Why? Because in the pre-scene, they have told us that Thermwick is specifically focusing on boilers. And the boilers market is reducing. Whereas Hottayr is focusing on air pumps. Air pumps market is increasing. So maybe that is why our revenue was stronger. If you look at our operating costs, yes, they were 8.65. Thermwick's went down by 1.8%, which is good that their revenue increased, but still they could control the costs. But in our case, I will say it's a more positive sign that the revenue went up. And maybe because this is a new product, this is something innovative. These are new heat pumps which are in the market now, and every day we are coming up with software updates and coming up with new changes and updates. That is why our operating costs are high. But the future seems better for my company than Thermwick because of the good growth in revenue. Operating profit for Thermwick was healthier, pretty healthier than ours, because they controlled their costs. Thermwick's financial expenses also went down, and that is why overall their profit before tax was higher than ours. Their profit before tax was considerably higher than ours. Let's put it that way. So in terms of the financials, I will say that Thermwick's financials and ratios are better than us. But if you look at the market share, if you look at the market prospects, if you look at the future, my company is the one to invest into, because Hottayr is the company rather to invest into, because it has a good growth prospect and a product that in the market is sought after, which is the air source heat pumps. This you understand only because you do this comparative analysis and only because we present this comparative analysis. Otherwise, just by looking at absolute numbers, it's not a very clear sign that comes up. Same way, comparative analysis for the statement of financial position. So return on capital employed, Thermwick's is bigger than ours, larger than ours. So something that we need to work upon. And as our profit increases, our ROCE will also increase, and the future for my company is looking good. Non-current asset turnover, I will say in the same range. Current ratio, ours is better. Quick ratio, ours is better. Also in their financials as well, no inventory has been mentioned. So maybe these are only made to order. Once a big bulk order comes in, only then you make your products in this market. That's why there is no inventory in our financial statements or in Thermwick's financial statements. So current ratio, ours is better, but okay, theirs is also acceptable because it's in the one zone. One thing which I want to notice is the gearing here. The gearing for us was 33%, for them was 18%. So we have been using debt as a very important aspect in finance generation. They have not been doing that. And maybe it's a good sign for us that we have used debt, and that's why our weighted average cost of capital will be a little bit lower than theirs. And we may be able to control the cost of capital a little bit better in the future. So ours is more. A highly geared company is called a risky company. I won't say that our company is highly geared, because gearing stands at 33%. There is still scope of taking on a little bit more debt, but if there is a huge investment needed, equity finance will be something that is looked at so that our ratio doesn't become completely disproportionate to our competitor. And in the market, there are no wrong insights about the company. So again, everything that I spoke about has been put as conclusions over here for you. This was the financial analysis. And the last part of the financial analysis is the share price history. They've given us the history from 2019 up until 2022. In 2019, the share price was close to $20. It kept increasing and it peaked in 31/07/2022, 31st July. It was pretty much a peak for our company where the share price hit close to $65. Then it has settled again and it's still in the 55, it's still in the 60, 55, 60 range. That's the range that has been maintained by our share price up until now. You see, 39/2022, it's close to again 50. So 50 to 60 is what the share price has been fluctuating within in the past some months. But the peak was close to 65. After that, they are telling us that the beta for my share price is 1.12. The beta factor is part of your F3 studies. If you've done your F3 studies, you will know what I'm speaking about, but I'll still explain it to you. Now, a beta factor allows investors to understand whether an individual stock moves in the same direction as the rest of the market. They have told us in the pre-scene as well that ours is a company that is affected by economic factors. Because if new homes are not made, will there be new heat pumps that are needed? Because majorly that's the market, right? And if there are no home buyers, why will somebody make the home? So it also reflects how volatile a stock is in relation to rest of the market. When a beta is equal to 1, it indicates that the price activity is strongly related to the market. Market goes up, price will go up. Market goes down, price will go down. If it's 1, a beta of less than 1 means that the share price is less volatile than the market. A beta greater than 1 indicates that the securities price tends to be more volatile than the market. Something happens in the market, our price will be the first to be affected. And we can see that from the share price trajectory. You can see how quickly and often it's going up, going down, going up, going down, going up, going down, because our beta is more than 1. Beta is used in the capital asset pricing model, which is used to derive a suitable risk-adjusted cost of capital for discounting any project when you are seeing its profitability, when you are seeing how much it's going to earn you, when you are seeing how much, what the discount factor is going to be. For that, the beta factor is used in the capital asset pricing model, which is part of your F3 syllabus. You should know what beta means. Hottayr's beta specifically is 1.12, which means that it is a volatile share when compared to the rest of the market and is likely to be affected by changes in external factors like tax rates, interest rates, unemployment. Because if any of this changes, the demand for homes and hence the demand from home builders, which are our major customers, is going to suffer, and hence my company's prospects will suffer, and hence the share price will take a toll. So Hottayr's beta is 1.12. Please remember that our share price will be volatile and will be reflected and will be something that changes frequently because our beta is 1.12. This is very important to remember. And then that brings us to the news analysis section. Now for the news analysis section, what we do is we create summaries for you in our own words for the news analysis section, and we put it over here. It's a summary. It's not the exact replication from the pre-scene because we create a summary and put it over here in our own words. So the last 2 pages of the pre-scene is the news analysis, which we have already made a summary for you and put over here. Your job will be to simply read through them. No extra analysis, just read through them, because we have already provided the summary to you. We have already provided the analysis for you. And that has finally got us to the end of this marathon, which was the pre-scene analysis. So the end of the pre-scene analysis marks the completion of explanation of the company, but it doesn't mark the completion of your reading and your understanding of our company. Please remember, you will have to go through the pre-scene at least 10, 12, 15 times before the date of the exam. Yes, you might not have the time to always watch this 2.5 hour recording, 3 hour recording. But the first 2-3 times that you go through the pre-scene, go through the recording very, very, very carefully. And then the next times you can pick up, the pre-scene PDF and read through it. You can pick up the pre-scene PDF and go through it. But use this recording to understand the pre-scene at the onset. Because the more you go through it, the more you will see, the more you will learn, the more you will pick up. That's all from me for the pre-scene analysis. Thank you for being here. Go through the pre-scene multiple times. Thank you.